Great to check in with you guys today. We are still in the middle of this cosmic gate called Lion's Gate. So I definitely wanted to check in with you guys on those energies and how these energies are treating you. Yes, I'm just pulling up some things that I wrote that I wanted to share in the meantime. Sadaya, hello. It's been a while. It bees like that sometimes. Hi, Lisa. Good morning to you. It's funny with these words, right? Good morning, grand rising, and how we use the language. Hey, Regine. Christina, hello. Grand rising and good morning, and the morning being kind of like, oh, did someone die? What are we mourning this morning? Are we beginning a new foundation of a new day, awakened in morning? Or are we truly rising within our consciousness and making sure that we are aware? So, I catch it sometimes, but what I realize is that there's nothing wrong with mourning, in a sense of saying that, well, last night, maybe there was a version of myself that did, that was, released somehow, in a way of how we constantly rebirth and we shed and release through metamorphosis. And some people would call that a death. But to me, as I always say, death is more so separation from self. And when we're talking about rebirthing or shedding skin into new skin, to me, that's not necessarily separating from self. That's more so, it feels more so like upgrade. It feels next level. It feels fresh. It feels new. It feels rejuvenated, restored. I feel a lot of that when I think of metamorphosis or shedding or, that level of change. So I don't necessarily see that as death, right? So when I think about my process and even going to quote unquote sleep at night, it's more so of a shedding process for me, or a releasing of some sort, or a metamorphosis that is continuous, that still keeps me together, but doesn't necessarily mean death in a sense of separation. So I just wanted to, share my sentiments on that, since we're all here greeting each other, right? But again, we can be in mourning of a lot of things. So this language is really tricky when we are talking about ourselves. So I just try to catch myself, but I'm not too hard on myself about it, So, yes, how are you guys doing? I know last week we came in and we were talking more so about, I believe it was last week, Monday. We came in on a Monday. We started the fast. Some of you guys followed through on that fast. Some of you were already fasting. And we talked about a few things. We talked about quite a few things last week. We talked about the growth of womanhood and not necessarily beginning that new journey within self of whatever that next level is, not necessarily beginning in trauma, in the realms of trauma, just to grow. Because as I stated in that last video, we don't have to start on that foot or let that be the first step into the next level of self. A lot of you here have done a lot of the trauma work and the shadow work and everything like that, and some of you have not. But the thing that I wanted to reiterate this today is knowing that as you flow in your higher vibration, and knowing that you are flowing with more so with being more so aware and conscious of your feelings and conscious of your direction, it doesn't mean, or it doesn't take you away from the obstacle course of life. So it doesn't mean that you're setting the dial on perfection. It's more so, okay, I feel good about my journey right now. I'm not going to the grave of trauma just to feel something. I'm actually feeling good in this moment right now. And through this obstacle course called life, right, whatever it is that I am faced with, I am able to handle from this point of view. And whatever traumas or triggers or whatever pops up in that moment organically, I deal with. I deal with it head on right here in the moment. I just deal with it. And to me, it just feels more so of, it brings forth relevancy, and it allows you to see your trauma from the past. It allows you to see the correlation between your right now, your whatever needs to pivot, or whatever it is that you need to pivot in your growth. And it allows you to deal with things that, again, are relevant for your next pivot. Because sometimes we don't need to, again, go to the graves of all of these traumas when we're trying to like really focus on certain things, and maybe we can get back to that later when we're at a certain point in our journeys. Or maybe we don't even need to face it at all. Maybe it's buried, it's been dealt with, and maybe you don't necessarily think it's been dealt with, but it's been dealt with because you've heightened your level of awareness and consciousness so much so that it's not even a thing that influences you in your subconscious anymore. So we don't need to go and dig up everything just to see what it is that we need to quote unquote fix or heal. Again, just to take things to the next level. So that's we spoke a lot on that. Last week. Another thing that we spoke on, just to do a quick recap, is we spoke on the evolution of womanhood as far as dealing with our sexuality, dealing with how we view our own inner intimacy. So today I wanted to talk about the rebirthing process and the integration process, and the difference between the two, because there is a difference. There's a difference. And sometimes we can get caught up, you know, in one or the other, right? And they both need each other, whether you're male or female, but of course we're all women here, and we're more so talking about our journey. There's the rebirthing journey is definitely one that comes to us naturally. We naturally just rebirth ourselves. We usually don't have the resistance when it comes to rebirthing ourselves. We know when it's time. It's just like if you're a mama to be, and you're about to give birth, you already know that it's about to be that time. So we kind of go through that in our stages just with life. So it's a natural thing that happens. But what I will say is sometimes the rebirthing, it's just like we talk about in the physical realm, right? Us women, we do have children, right? We have the capability or the ability to have children. Some of us do, and we have our children, and there is a physical result of that child, all right? And then the more children you have, the more children you have, and it multiplies in numbers, right? And when we give birth, every time we give birth, there's another child to count. So what I wanted to say is to come in and say, think about that when you're rebirthing yourself. See, the thing about rebirthing that I recognize in my journey is that it's literally like giving birth to another child, another inner child. And that's why the integration process is so important, to bring that in so that you can bring that child. You're not externally birthing an aspect of you that now needs your attention. You're externally acknowledging the rebirthing, and then you're internalizing her, making her a part of you integration wise. Because then it's kind of like having a lot of metaphysical or like etherical little babies running around. Okay. A lot of etherical babies running around that you end up having to tend to because you've rebirth. Because just like the healing process, it can be addictive. Healing can feel so addictive because it feels good and it's comforting and it feels like progress, which it is progress. But there are points when you have to know that the healing, that part of your journey needs a break. And now it's time to thrive in what you've healed in already, you know, and that's the same thing with rebirthing. Sometimes it's like, okay, I've rebirthed enough of myself, and now I am ready to integrate more so those aspects of myself so that I can really light up on the inside and not have these aspects of myself, again, pulling at me like little babies, kids of self, you know what I mean? So that's what I was realizing. So I wanted to read, and if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook on my personal page, I posted, and I should have posted it here. I'm surprised that I didn't. It was a really long post, so I probably just was like, okay, you know. But I posted an excerpt of one of my short story series that I'm doing called, well, the name of it is called The Cosmic Child of Isis, Indigo Sun. And we spoke about that in the last video on the influence of this essence that is coming into a lot of what we are sharing today, or just period within this group. So I wrote a couple of things, and I wanted to share a story with you that I did not share publicly. And this is kind of like the beginning of Indigo Sun is basically she's a child that she's an immortal child, basically. Indigo Sun is an immortal child, and someone gave birth to her, and she kind of got caught up in limbo, not remembering where she came from, where she is, where she's going. And through that, there was a piece of, or if I'm using the name of the series, The Cosmic Child of Isis, there was a piece of Isis that was missing because of, and it's funny because when we go into the Kemetic stories, we talk about the story of Isis and Osiris, right? And Osiris had a missing piece. He had 14 missing pieces. And, you know, there was that last piece, that 14th piece that needed to be, that Isis through magic was able to create and reattach, and then Heru was born. You guys know that story. Well, there's an aspect of that with the feminine. There's an aspect of that with the feminine, and it's not necessarily as you know, as like external as the story of Osiris and what is represented there, even though that is an internal story. But Isis, there's an aspect of her, if you notice, if you realize, when we go into the Kemetic pantheon, there's a part of her that is always sad. If you haven't noticed, she's always mourning. It's funny that we brought up that word today. She's always mourning over her love, right? She's separated from her sister. She's separate, which is in turn herself, all right? An aspect of herself, which would kind of like be a shadow aspect of self, because her sister is in the underworld while she's up top. But she's up top, but she's crying. She's healing. She's giving gifts to others, but there's a personal part of her that feels empty. And because of that, she's always crying. And because she's always crying, there's harvest for those, you know, it's a gift. Her tears are a gift to those who depend on the Nile River for their harvesting. So at a certain point every year, the story says, you know, as the story goes, the allegory is that it is the tears of Isis that fill up the river or the Nile so that everyone can live plentiful, right? And have a great harvest. But the thing is the sacrifice of those tears sadness? Does the tears of Isis have to be the tears of mourning? So these were some of the things that I was thinking about, and I was channeling into, just thinking about femininity, womanhood, making sure, what does it feel like to feel complete and whole and fulfilled within yourself, and not having to overextend or even sacrifice yourself for others to thrive, so that others can thrive. How can we adjust or readjust this ecosystem? Because it's not working, because nobody wants to be Isis if Isis is always crying and mourning and chasing after pieces and, you know, having to be of service to others. And that's how sometimes it could feel like being a woman. It could feel like that, being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter, you know, making sure that you are holding on to your individuality, and just be you without having other aspects pulling at you just because you are who you are. Regine said, resonating so much with this story, we'll be catching the replay. Absolutely. Okay, Regine. Hey, Brown Sugar, hello. Sadaya, or Sida sounds like my life. Oh, and I see the tears emoji, and it's just like, wait. So, but what I realize, and it's funny because as I'm tapping more so into my femininity from this perspective, when I see, or when I adjust the story, at least in my world, right, these are tears of joy now. Isis now cries the tears of joy because she has found herself. That's the different story that I am telling myself from this feminine perspective, because we have different kinds of tears, and you can even measure the signature of tears and through the crystals, through the salt, and you can see if the tears are coming from joy, love, sadness, sorrow, mourning. You can tell because they have a register, they have a signature to them. So I said, you know what, forget this. Like, these, if we're going to cry tears at this point in the journey of womanhood, let's at least cry tears of healing and love and joy, and just tears of true liberation. Crying to the point where we are crying because we are free. We're crying because we've really recognized and unlocked a certain part of ourselves that really healed all aspects of self. Let that be the tears that bring forth harvest to those who need those tears, or who depend on those waters, those cosmic waters. So let's not look at Cosmic Mother as sad all the time. She doesn't have to be sad, right? By choice, because Mama is awake. And Mama, she does not want to cry those tears anymore. You know, you ever been all cried out? You know, so when Mama gets all cried out through sadness, then we go back to having barren lands again, because if she's not in love and joy and those vibrations, and she's tired of being sad and she's exhausted, and now she's become apathetic instead, and she's just become numb to her pain, then those tears of sadness have run out. And in those tears of sadness, you get nothing, because there are no tears. And again, here comes the desert, here comes the dry Nile, you know, and there we have it. So this is why paying attention to our emotions and allowing the waters to flow within, that flow within with different kinds of signatures and reasons to cry. Quintana, definitely felt all this. I have been that girl, and this weekend I learned to shift and evolve with my darkness, connecting all the dots. Today I woke up riding the waves of my inner Kali. Listen, thank you for sharing that. And Quintana, I know you resonate a lot with the shadowy realms. You know, some of us resonate more towards certain realms within ourselves, and that inner Kali is very interesting, because that, you know, she's looked at as the goddess of she's a destroyer, basically. That power, she's so powerful that her power, if not guided or if misguided, this is why Kali is teamed up with Shiva, you know, because Shiva kind of comes in and says, Kali, chill, like just wait, like calm down. And it's kind of like the same story in the Kemetic pantheon with Sekhmet and Hathor, you know. So Sekhmet, you know, Hathor turns into Sekhmet, and she goes on this rampage, and she just rips the flesh of all those who are not honoring Ma'at, and she gets drunk off of the blood, you know. So therefore Ra, the story is, she had to be tricked with pomegranate juice, right? Or something like that. And she had to be tricked into calming down, like not feeding off of the fight anymore. And that's when that other part of self comes in and says, hey, chill, like warrior, it's a time and a place for this, but there's a time where you can overdo it and you can destroy it to the point where there's no coming back. So although we need that Kali-like energy, what energy do we have to follow up with that Kali so that we can like replace what has been destroyed, or we can immediately replace what has been released or what has been taken out? So if you're tapping into your inner Kali, make sure that you have that inner Shiva, or make sure if you're tapping into that inner Sekhmet, make sure that Hathor is right there to like show love to and mercy and empathy to the process as well, so that it evens out and it creates great fresh foundation for the new beginning, because Kali comes in to destroy for the new beginning. So yeah, that it's so deep with these stories and these pantheons. My name, even Tana, is the Nile River. It comes from Ethiopia. I'm feeling all of this. Yes, I know you're Ethiopian, so I know a lot of this is like bringing out a lot from you. So yes, this is it's deep. So I wanted to share a story of Indigo Sun. So this is basically the quote unquote missing piece of Isis. She's no longer missing anymore. But you got to start from the beginning. And in the stories that I tapped into, Indigo Sun is basically her soul, her heart, her soul, like the very essence that drives her, so that she's not roaming around sad and empty. Indigo Sun also represents indigo is more so representing the night sky, which would be the moon. So it would be the soul and the moon, or the sun and the moon within self. So it's more so of that balance that is needed for that embodiment in order to truly feel alive. So that's what Indigo Sun is. And if Indigo Sun is living outside and she's afraid, she really kind of, sort of, right? Because we're talking about masculine and feminine. We're talking about an androgynous essence that needs to find her place back into her temple. So this is what that story is, just to describe who Indigo Sun is. So I wrote this. My Indigo Sun, as she reaches the gates of the dark portal, she knows she cannot stay. She looks behind her and sees the storm of chaos. And her only way out is into the darkness of the unknown that lies in front of her. She's heard stories of how this darkness leads to the light. But how could she believe this to be true? No one has proof, because no one ever returns. She's seen them gather, each one by one, entering this doorway into the darkness. Many hold different beliefs as to what the journey will be, as they hold on strong in their blind faith. But Indigo Sun, she's afraid because she doesn't like the fact that she doesn't know what the journey is. So she stays, and she stays, and she stays. Her immortal soul turns gloom, as now she knows, all she knows is torture of her fear that has now grown fangs over eons from staying behind. The one that taunts her, always keeping her away from the gate, telling her lies of what lies on the other side. Eternal nothingness. Emptiness is what she's most afraid of. So barren land must be better than roaming and wandering into the possibility of life, right? Alone, immortal, fear is her only company, so she entertains these demons, and for now they have become her gods. She forgets who she is, and her immortality turns into eternal death. Until one day she starts remembering the beginning. She has a dream of the beginning, as it's always felt so far away since she's been dwelling in the end for what seems like eternity. In the beginning, there was nothing. She looks around and she recognizes that no one has ever lived here but her. Travelers graze through, all headed towards the doorway of darkness, but never stopping in between, never settling in, always moving. She wonders, why is she settled into a place where everyone else is moving? Her curiosity causes her to ask, What is this place? How could she dwell in a place or in a space eternally immortal and not even know the name? She starts to question, who am I? Where am I? How did I get here? Why am I so scared to leave? As she grows with intense curiosity, her demons grow bigger, whispering lies of confusion. Her awareness now knows that these are the lies that have kept her here, and with great determination, she banishes them. Now alone, without fear, she makes her way to the door. As she stands there, the door opens. No one else is around. She looks behind, and yet again she sees an incoming storm that has never been seen before in all her eternal youth. She is now faced with the fear of what is closing in on her and the fear of what lies ahead of her. Feels like hell in the hallway. The door always appears inside of a tree. She overheard people call it the tree of life. Life couldn't be so bad. Life had to be better than immortal death. Although life was just a fantasy in her reality, she decided to gather up faith in believing that life was real. The more faith she gathered up from within, the more connected she became to the tree, until she finally heard a heartbeat. As she felt the vibration, she instantly knew how to communicate. All this time, she was able to communicate with the door. The tree spoke. "Hello, my child." And out from the door stepped a woman. She was so beautiful, confident, and wise. Indigo Sun almost felt she needed to bow in her presence, especially since no one has ever arrived or returned here. She said, "If you don't trust yourself, life can very easily turn into death, as it has for you already if you haven't noticed. All this time, your immortality has gone to waste on the side of death due to your lack of trust in self. We all start out blind, my child, but you have chosen to stay here, never trusting the insight that you do have." "Who are you?" Indigo Sun asked. "I am you." Indigo couldn't believe such a sight. Her blindness and demons must be playing tricks on her again. "Indigo Sun, you are the lost soul that I've been looking for. I've been waiting for you in the light, but for eternity, you never show up. So the first time in forever, I've come looking for you instead. I must say that, although afraid, it was a smart decision to not step into the doorway without knowing thyself first." She grabbed the hand of Indigo Sun and said, "I will teach you and show you everything about yourself in the light, but will you trust me in the darkness as we walk together?" "Yes, I will." "And why do you trust me now?" "Because I am you and I trust myself. I thank you for showing me who I am. What is your name?" And the woman replied, "Isis." So that's like one of the first stories that, first shorts that come within this series of getting to know the soul of this being. And I shared that with you guys because I know that some of us feel like we're either holding the hand of our higher self or ourselves that are inviting us into life. And some of us have not even gotten to that point yet. Some of you are still kind of wandering around in that desert playing with your demons, right? Playing with the demons that claim to be your friends, the ones that claim, they want you to stay with them because if you leave, they don't exist. You literally give your demons life. Those aspects of demons. I'm not talking about the daemon aspect of self where we have these other parts of us that are needed for the life force to work. Because that's a whole other thing when we talk about daemons. You can't separate a being from their daemon, kind of like the movie that Golden Compass or the show that reflects that. When they took the daemons away from the demons away from the children withered away and they became programmable and they just lost life, the luster for life, and they just were just followers of the matrix. And while they experimented on the demons or the daemons, the life force, and they were usually animal energies. So it's the same for us. Like, we have our daemons that we need, and these daemons are really like our inner children, who are like in animal form, and we are able to adapt or adopt the abilities and the very special medicines and magic that comes with these specific animal totems that are daemons to us. So tearing away someone's daemon or demon is like tearing away their heart or their soul, like separating the soul from the body, and replacing that with false programming. So that's what that is. So I'm not talking about those types of demons or daemons that we need. I'm talking about the demons that are more so thought forms that are created out of fear that we don't need. We don't need those demons. And those demons do not exist without our attention. So they hold her back. They hold her back from going to the gates of her life, walking into the gates of life, which is dark, because when I wrote this, it was more so that I was looking at this more so like a womb, and what it feels like for the soul on the other side to walk into the womb of mother. You know, while the fetus is growing, the soul has to make a decision, like, are you going to come into this world or nah? You know, we're kind of waiting. And if the soul is afraid to walk through that door, then mama has a miscarriage, or there's a stillbirth, or there's an abortion, or there's something that happens where she loses, you know, because the soul chose to stay behind the gates. Sometimes this is what I'm seeing metaphysically on a soul level, where it's just like, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So mama physically is pregnant, and there's a certain amount of time, you know, just like these lion gates, right? There's a certain amount of time for opening. And if that soul doesn't choose to go through the extremely dark portal to lead her into the womb, then the fetus is you know, it just won't happen, and that birthing won't take place, and life doesn't take place in another realm or within that other level. So the soul has to dwell in limbo once again, somehow waiting for another opportunity, you know, and opportunities don't always come through, you know, especially if you're constantly in fear of it. You're going to miss out the opportunities of walking through that door. So it's going to feel like you're staying in this space longer and longer. Wintana, beautiful. Also a great story for our growing children. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Hey, Lyric. So just imagine that soul just being afraid, you know, and that was Indigo Sun. She was scared. So every time, if I go to the second part of the story, every single time she stops and her mother miscarries. And every time mother miscarries, mother dies. Mother basically dies at childbirth, trying to give birth to herself. And that's what goes in the second part of the story. And you notice this in the Disney movies, you know, the mother is always dead. Like, something happened. She died at childbirth. It's always something, you know, and there's an aspect to that, because mother is afraid to rebirth herself, because it's kind of like, well, what is she really afraid of? Why is she afraid to walk through that door? Like, really? And how did she end up there? So now that Indigo Sun is holding Isis's hand at the gate of life, which is dark, she's trusting herself now to finally go into her mother's womb to be rebirthed. So the second story, really quickly, and I'll go through this, and I'll go through the comments to see if you guys have any suggestions, or see if you guys wanted to join in on conversation. So the second part of the story is, now that Indigo Sun decided to go through the portal of the womb, now it's time. Now mother is birthing. Now she's been in fetus mode, and mother is like, okay, it's time, labor. So imagine this story from Indigo Soul's perspective inside of the womb, which is a lot of our journey. It's a traumatic journey to be birthed into this world. So I wrote, every time she comes close, or every time she's close to the light, she runs back into the darkness of the cave, into the comfort of pain, of what seems like a journey unfinished. An unfinished birth? Why? What's so bad about the light? She's heard stories about the sun, but still she's afraid. Although she is guided through the darkness by her mother's voice, she knows that this last bit of the journey is solo. But instead, it feels so low. She must come out of the womb of darkness, as this door only births one at a time. But because she's the last one, because we're talking about the birth of masculine and feminine, the feminine is, she's always the last twin to come out, right? So because she's always the last one, she sees this as an opportunity to delay it even more. Yet her mother grows tired of pushing, losing faith in her own life, not knowing if her daughter will ever make it. Mother is exhausted, waiting for her rebirthing to complete. Eon after eon, she has died during rebirth, never to meet her son, as her daughter dies with her, only to continuously leave a son without a mother. A story incomplete, bringing upon a cycle of hurt masculine who never gets why his mother never makes it, growing resentful towards her, towards the feminine, for her lack of will to live for him. Today, the story changes. She finds her strength in her tears, and with the few breaths she has left, she speaks to her baby girl. My child, why are you so afraid? Or what are you so afraid of? We are waiting for you. If you don't make it, I won't either. Indigo Sun says, the light burns, the fire is hot, my eyes hurt, and this feels more like dying than actually dying. So I'd rather die in the darkness and dream instead. My child, do you not see that even in your dreams, you still end up here at the same door? Me in the same position, pushing you with all of the strength that I have. You cannot escape this. No dream dreams long enough, for even the dreamers have to wake up from slumber eventually. Get through the ring of fire. One moment of exposure to the sun is much kinder than immortal death in the darkness. You are a child of the sun, remember? A child of light who brings forth the wisdom from your fear of it, holding the keys to the secrets of darkness. Although it has raised you, the darkness never leaves you. Use it as your comfort and balance within the light. No one has been in the darkness longer than you, longer than the divine feminine. No one knows the stories of what lies within the unseen. As you bring stories from the shadows, your soul family brings stories from the light. And together we honor the stories of both the sun and the moon. This is my prayer. So child, please give birth to your stories. Say yes to the light. Give birth to your other two eyes with new sight. We need you. I want to live, but I cannot without you. You are my soul, for there is no light in me without you. I roam around dead and empty. This is no longer if you choose to feel the warmth of my heart by feeling the light of my love as nurture and not pain. Indigo Sun is thinking about it, and she's just like, okay, can you sing to me as I come through? I love your songs. Your voice comforts me. Mother sings. Indigo Sun sees the light, and at that point of pain where she always turns back, it's like giving birth and then the baby going back inside. Have you guys ever been through that? At the point where she always turns back, she finally chooses to keep going. Out comes her crown. She feels like she's choking. But by the saving grace of Mother, with one last ounce of strength, she pushes and guides her daughter out full body into the world. Mother is finally here. Mother finally lives as she's given birth to her own soul, reunited with her son, who gets to feel Mother's love, sister's joy, sitting in the divine seat of Father. Now it's funny because the masculine is not divine until the feminine has given birth to her soul. I'll say that again. There is no divine seat of father if mother does not have her soul. If she does not have her heart and her soul within her, and she has not finished her own process of rebirthing, there is no throne. There is no seat for father. So father wanders upon the desert, yet once again, upset with feminine. And the cycle continues. So when I look at this cycle as we're coming into this newness, mother was brave this time. Her soul finally decided to come through and out and go in, so that mother is finally awakened and truly alive, so that father is now awakened and alive. Because again, he is nothing without that support, without that backing of a feminine aspect of himself that is truly awake and aware to guide him, because he's lost without her. He wanders the desert without her. And that even goes again to with the Kemetic story of Set and Osiris. The reason why they had that whole beef, where was mother to talk to her sons, to guide her sons, to tell them, guys, you guys are the same person. You guys are one and the same. You cannot separate you from you. And if you do that, you die. One wanders in the desert angry and brings forth war and storms, desert storms, while the other half is in the underworld and the other underbellies of himself and cannot see the light of day. So one is in the sun for too long and the other one is hidden from the sun. So the hope is the birth of Heru, right? The hope of the Set and Osiris being brought together to at least reset the masculine energies. But then Heru has a mega ego because he's still trying to fight Set. And the cycle continues because he's still not realizing that he is Set. So are you still going to continue to fight these shadows or these daemons that have been separated? So where's mother? Where is she? Where does she come into this story? You know, and that it is a story of archetype or archetypical learning, right? About ourselves. But at some point, there's a point in the story where we kind of like adjust certain things to bring forth different results. So it's more so, this is why I said we don't have to keep rebirthing in order to rebirth the same cycles. Integration is making sure that you are gathering all of yourselves. So it's kind of like an internal birth, not an external. I don't need to externally birth an aspect of myself anymore, right? Metaphysically, because I am internally rebirthing and integrating within myself. So again, I take that back to where we talked about in the beginning, where it's like, in your human, you know, some people are just like, hey, you got enough kids, right? Are you good? Like, are you going to take care and raise the kids that you got? You know, are you going to keep giving birth to children? And it's kind of like yourself. And then when you're integrated fully integrated and truly feeling complete and whole, then you can make a sound decision on rebirthing. You can make a decision on whether you want to actually give birth again, whether it's to a physical child or a metaphysical version of self, whatever that is, you can make a decision coming from a complete place, not a rebirthing from a place of trying to fill an empty void, because that never works. It only responds the same cycle. So that's kind of like that Heru constantly being born, always kind of like, you know, ending up going into the fight with himself. You know what I mean? And then he defeats him. But the only way to defeat truly is to integrate. Because we can't keep giving birth to Herus that want to fight themselves, because that's exhausting life force. So we're coming more so into a place where I feel like all of the Harus, right? Which I say there's a male and female Haru. All right, the sun, we all have our souls that come through, but this time coming through, we are again fully integrated and not fighting that fight anymore. Some of us, some of them still want to fight the fight, and that's just the way the whole story goes, right? There's always a part of the story, but you get to choose as an awakened being. You get to choose on whether you want to participate in certain parts of that game, or you get to choose to transcend it and recreate and redirect, and create new foundation for yourself and for those who are like-minded in that. So I'll stop there. If anyone had anything to say or ask, I'm very, very passionate about this level or this way of storytelling, because it really highlights not only just my journey, but again, different angles and different perspectives of divine masculine and feminine rebirthing, even though I'm focusing more on the feminine, but we can't exclude the masculine parts of ourselves, if we're really talking about true integration here. This is a full cycle of what the universe has been telling me, my numbers and experience. I've been confused about what life has been trying to lead me, but still taking the walk. And you can take the walk confused. And it's funny because I know we get so caught up in what we're supposed to be doing in life, especially with all of what we have access to with these resources. But what I at least came to a point of realizing is like, we don't have to always try to figure out life. Live it. Live it. Live it instead. I went through a good 2 years of trying to figure out life. I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to figure it out. I'm tired of trying to really figure out the formula of life. So while you're out here trying to figure out the formula of life, there are other people out here that are actually living it. And whether you want to call them crazy or ratchet or whatever the hell they choose to do to live, at least they're living it while you're over here trying to figure it out. And to me, again, with that balance, there's a time and a space for that in the journey. There's a time to go into the hermit mode and study and teach yourself things and learn more about yourself and go into the books and the studies and schooling and the internal schooling. There's a time for that. But some people stay there. And that's when you overexhaust that part of you. And that's when you start losing these parts. They start leaving your body. It's like your soul is just done with you. Your soul is just like, so you mean to tell me that I'm sitting here dormant because you're just only using the mind? You're only using this is what we're doing here? I kind of want to do stuff. I'm an action-based aspect, right? I'm an action-based being or essence within you. And if you are not taking action, then what are we here for? What are we really doing? And then your soul kind of just says, you know what? And then you kind of started feeling empty again. And you don't know why. And you're just like, damn it. Was I so busy trying to figure out life instead of living it? Damn it, I gotta go find my soul again. And that's the journey. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. But today, it's just like, listen, live it. Live it. I'm talking to all of y'all. Y'all have studied enough. Y'all have gone through all the puzzle pieces. You guys have taken the jigsaw puzzle pieces apart. You've put them joints back together, and y'all keep putting the same puzzles back together again, and you're getting faster and faster in doing it, because now you know what the whole picture looks like. But damn it, are you gonna jump into that puzzle and feel it and sense it, the puzzle of life, you know? So that's where I am. This is where I stand in my personal journey, and just wanted to express that. And I don't know if some of you guys feel this way, as far as feeling like life is passing you by, and as aware and awake as you may be, are you utilizing the power of your true life force and of your soul? Are you truly utilizing that part of yourself? Because you don't want that part of yourself to leave your body, and then you just turn gray again, you know, you get all pale, and you just like, oh damn, here we go again. And then the heart reacts to that emptiness, and the heart tries to overcompensate for what the soul it should be doing. So then the heart grows tired, and then the heart feels broken. The heart is never really truly broken, but it starts to feel broken because it's doing everything. The heart is pumping the blood constantly. It's just going and going. Now you mean to tell me the heart has to overcompensate for your soul? Nah, you have your solar plexus for a reason. All right, you have your solar plexus for a reason. It is there. We are in the time of Leo right now. This is like solar plexus. Psh. This is Lion's Gate. This is like lion energy. This is like full force fire. If you don't have your life force, or if you are not honoring your life force right now, this is a time to actually start. So this video is more so like awakening the life force. Like, what's up? What are you going to do today to make sure that you are honoring your soul? What are you going to do today to make sure that you are honoring your light? What are you going to do today? Not what are you going to think about? What are you going to read? You know, not what are you going to, like, what are you going to do? So, you know, and even today, I woke up today and, you know, I've been, you know, fasting and cleansing and, you know, conjuring up my energy again. And I've been slimming down, right? But I know that I still need to be physically active. You know, I lose weight very quickly. That's never really been a thing for me. That was the goal. But at this point, I found myself getting a little lazy. I was just like, oh, I don't need working out, so I haven't worked out. And it's just like, no. No, this is not what we're doing this for. We're not just shedding pounds and not develop or not developing our core and activating our physical bodies. Get your ass out there and make sure that you do some physical activity for your body. I know that you think that you good because you slimming down and you just doing it naturally. Cool. But get your behind out there and do some work. Go and sweat. Go and work that solar plexus, that core, that soul. Get the juices flowing through action so that you can feel better about yourself continuously. Because that's what that soul does. That solar plexus is that self-confidence. And the self-confidence comes from what? The self-confidence comes from action and completing a task. Don't you feel good when you've actually like come to a point or come to a milestone or a goal that you set and you've completed that? You feel good. And what it does is it fuels you even more. It gives you even more soul force to go and do that next thing. But when you're not completing the task and you're not doing, or you're not allowing your willpower to participate in life with you, then your self-confidence starts to become lackluster because you're like, well, I'm not going to finish it anyway. Well, I'll just wait for tomorrow. And you'll keep waiting until tomorrow. And a person who constantly waits until tomorrow does not feel good about themselves. I will tell you that right now. We've all been there. We've all been at the I'll wait until tomorrow stage, whether you've gone through a dark night of the soul, a little mini depression, whatever that is. Right? But at this point, it's just like tomorrow is right now. So what are you going to do today? What are you going to do today? So this is like more so the message that I wanted to share today with you guys, because as women, I know that we get caught up in the past a lot. All right. We love us some past, but let's be present today. Let's honor our souls today and allow our little indigo soul to see the light in us so that she can feel confident that there is light waiting, that there is something to get to. And that's our responsibility to make sure that we allow that aura to shine so that this little aspect of self that has been so afraid for many different reasons, there's hope. So we give her hope. Her hope, right? That androgynous side of self that is ready to come back into and activate your true self.